Hey fam, hope everyone is doing well. I love you. I love you. So today I want to talk to you all about sexual abuse. And this is my personal story with sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse, and lifetime sexual abuse, as well as all my clients, what I've learned from them and what I've learned about the path, the consequence of sexual abuse and what it does and how it impacts the rest of your lifetime. I think I've put off this video for a very, very long time. Because it brings up these kind of emotions. And today, I was doing some deep, deep healing with myself in regards to sexual abuse, and I thought it would be the perfect time when I am most vulnerable, because sometimes people don't get a real life feeling or a real life. They don't see how it really impacts you, because a lot of people with sexual abuse, they go on and they might seem like they've had a normal life, and you don't really see what goes on behind the scenes. And so, even today I had to do 8 hours of breath work and healing. And my sexual abuse, the very first one happened 40 years ago. So just to give you a time frame, okay, of how long that action can really impact someone's life, okay? So I want to talk to you a bit about it. And first of all, the stats on sexual abuse, they're high. For women, it's 1 in every 3. And that's the number of reported cases. So let's just say pretty much every woman has probably had some experience of abuse, either in the way of being objectified, catcalling, had advances come onto them, unwanted advances. So when I speak for most women. And I don't just speak for women, but I speak for men. My heart goes out to the men, because men especially are not encouraged to talk about this kind of thing. And it just so happens that, the majority of men in my life actually have been sexually abused, which is just, it's my vibration attracting that, is for sure. But I just want to share, share what it does, and I want you to understand, because I think there's a lot of feelings with, even there was a movie on Netflix called Filthy Rich, and it was about Epstein, and a lot of these women, these children that he took advantage of, and a lot of these women really didn't fight back, and I think there's a lot of questions as to why that is, and I want to explain it to you. When people are put in a situation of where there's dominance or power over you, or fear, especially if they've had an occurrence of childhood sexual abuse when they've been younger. Okay, so for me, first of all, or for anybody, but when sexual abuse happens below the age of 5, or even below, like in your younger years, 7, even under the age of 10, especially under the age of 5, it is the most traumatic. Because especially at that age, there's no ability for that child to even speak in some cases or protect yourself. So I know for me, when I had for me actually, I didn't even know I was sexually abused till I was 28 years old. Only one time I was sexually abused when I was 6, but other than that, when I was first sexually abused, it was when I was like 2 or 3. And it was from a family friend. And I was moving from Montreal to Hamilton. My parents were, and they were looking at houses, in Hamilton. And I was left with friends of the family. And when I was left there, so first of all, just that me being left there was a big trauma for me. And I get this time and time again with some of my clients that are experiencing anxiety, depression. They really don't know what's wrong with them. It's like a lot of this stuff comes from deep, deep, deep down in your childhood, and below the age of 5 even, and sometimes you can't even remember, can't even remember where this came from. So it's very hard until you learn to go into these feelings. So when I was left there, I experienced this abandonment, and that abandonment, seriously, it fucked me up for a lifetime. And not only was it abandonment, but it was when I was there, the friend of the family, touched me vaginally, and I felt very unsafe. He even used to make us sit on his knee, and none of us would like it. And it was all that was all like joking, but looking back, I now see like what the real issue was. And this is the thing with kids, is kids can pick this stuff up. So that experience, actually, because I was so young, I had no memory of it. And it wasn't until I was older, and I started, till I was like a teenager, when I started to drink. And I used to drink, and I loved drinking because it made me, I didn't even know why, to be honest. I just knew that it made me feel normal and good. Because when I got back from my parents when I was really, really young, I started stealing. So they didn't know I was sexually abused. I started actually stealing. I started taking money off my parents' dresser. I really had no idea why. I just started acting out. I started taking money. I became a total thief, And I started, taking, chocolate bars and whatever I could from convenience stores. And my dad said I had a look of death. It was like an evil glare, like I just fucking wanted him to die. And it was really weird to me too, now looking back, that they didn't understand. I think they thought when I was there, you know, my I'm not gonna say any names, but the one girl that was there in that family kind of played jokes on me and stole my blanket and this kind of thing. So I think they thought that I was traumatized from that. And so, yeah, so I started stealing, I started acting out. And it even happened, so long story short, so once I started drinking, I just, even when I drank, I could never stop. It was 1 drink to 20 drinks. And this went on for 14 years, and basically I was like this weird person that was really driven because my father, and very persistent, and like a type A personality, marathon runner, and also like partier kind of on my weekends. Like I would drink, a weekend warrior. But unlike other people, I just had no switch. And there's a saying when it comes to addiction, and it makes me emotional just saying it, but so just anyone that has addiction out there, they always say, you know, you can never get enough of what you don't really need. You can never get enough of what you don't really need. And that's the thing. There was a lot I needed. There was a lot I needed that I never got for a very, very long time. And it wasn't until, you know, my drinking got to a place where it started, you know, when I would drink too, and this is one thing with people that have sexual abuse, is, first of all, this pain lives in their body for a lifetime. And healing from it is not something you're gonna do in one session, let me fucking tell you. It happens in layers. You know, this healing from physical abuse or sexual abuse, it really happens in layers, and you might even think you've finished it, and then you might go months without it coming up, and then it comes up again, you know, and different aspects of it. And sometimes, you know, you have to visit this memory 50 to 100 times over to heal it. It's like, it's torture. And the biggest thing with sexual abuse, I just want you to understand, and any kind of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, is that, and this is where my heart goes out, is that it's, when you have abuse, you have to re-experience that abuse for a fucking lifetime. As if the abuse wasn't enough. As if it wasn't enough. And this is what makes me so sad. Just gonna give my pillow a hug. But like, this is seriously in my life why I have like wanted to create a business that thrives, so I can help people, like have something actually good happen to people in their lives that have abuse, something positive, something lucky, because people with abuse don't have a lot of lucky. They don't get a lot of lucky in their lives. And the reason is because the universe, a lot of times with abuse, is it goes unacknowledged. I mean, I remember when I was convicting, I was raped when I was 21. I'll tell you the story later, but I was convicting that man of sexual assault. And the detective said to me, wow, only 5% of these cases these criminals ever get convicted. Only 5%. Only 5%. Fuck! Like, this is it. And this is the thing, even with childhood sexual abuse, is a lot of people don't believe their kids. Even to this day. My mom, I don't even think my mom believes me about the childhood, my youngest sexual abuse. And you know how painful that is? You know how painful it is to go through abuse and people don't believe you? That one makes me angry, but yeah. So here is the thing. Why you repeat this abuse again and again and again is because what the definition of trauma is any pain or like negative experience that went unacknowledged. That is trauma. That turns into trauma. So when this isn't acknowledged, when you get parents that beat the shit out of you and they tell you to suck it up afterwards, my ex-partner, his dad would beat the shit out of him, slap him across the face, and then his mom put powder on his face and sent him back to school. Okay? That is fucking trauma. So you repeat it because the universe is trying to bring up that experience again and again and again. So eventually you re-experience that pain that was never felt and you acknowledge it for the first time. It also comes up to bring up the anger that was never felt. The rage. We're not talking just a little bit of oh, I'm sorry, that really hurt my feelings. We're talking fucking hate. Okay? Hatred. Do you get it? This is what happens. When I was healing, I used to have to rage through my house. I used to have to just scream at the top of my lungs. For years. This isn't for pussies. This isn't for the weak. Healing this shit is not for people with weak stomachs, okay? This is why, because when you were a kid, you were powerless. When you were a kid, you had no choice. You had no voice. And so why it happens again and again, for one reason, is because it's for you to finally have a voice. For you to say, fuck you. For you to say, this is not okay. For you to say, I am not just my body. For you to say, I don't want to do it. For you to say, leave me the fuck alone. You know what I mean? I'm being nice now. This is my nice, okay? So it comes up so you can learn those lessons, the lessons of self-worth, so you can realize you didn't deserve that. And I just want to say to all of you that had abuse right now, I just want to look you in the eyes and I want to say this. Sweethearts. Sweethearts. You didn't deserve it. It wasn't your fault. Because this is what happens. This is what happens with people that are abused. Is one, they believe it's their fault. They believe somehow they deserved that they did something wrong. They believe that's all they're worth. They believe they don't deserve any better in their life. Good partners, respectful, somebody who sees you for you, somebody who's with you not because of sex, somebody who's with you for you, a partner that could go without sex and doesn't guilt you and shame you and pressure you. Somebody that cares about your heart. So this is why it happens again. And it also happens again because what happens is when you're young, there's like a freeze mechanism. Because, you know, when I had that happen when I was 2 and 3, I didn't have a voice. My voice was stolen from me. You know, my voice was stolen. So I became paralyzed. You know, the fear, and even it's so funny as we talk now, like whenever I do healing, there's so much pain in my kidneys. And we're talking, this stuff affects your health for a lifetime. You know, this is not about nutrition. This is not about eating enough kale and thinking, fuck, if I just have enough kale, I am going to be so healthy. And like, we're talking, people wonder why they can't lose weight. They can't make money. They can't live a normal life. They can't do any of this. Fuck, man. Or they can't heal. They can't heal from MS. They can't heal from autoimmune, leaky gut, all these fucking health issues. And I am telling you, it's trauma. It's trauma. Trauma lives in the body, and there is no amount of spinach, okay? There is no amount of spinach that is going to heal those deep fucking wounds, okay? So a lot of times, why abuse happens over and over is because the freeze response happens. And I don't know if anyone knows about this, but with people with abuse, whenever they meet people throughout the rest of their life that is similar to their abusers, they freeze. They freeze. That means they can't speak. They can't protect themselves. So even though, you know, I want to share a couple things so you guys can just understand how brutal it is and how it makes the person also feel disgusted with themselves. I just have to cry this whole video, but just, you know, just bear with me. I'm just gonna... I love you all. I love you. So it just makes you feel disgusted because a lot of times you keep attracting it and you think, you feel ashamed of yourself that you can't protect yourself and you can't stand up for yourself. So like, I'll give you a little show of how sexual abuse happens again. So when I was 6, my family doctor, I'm just gonna call his name out if you're watching because I've never done that, and it's Dr. Mark Levy, touched me when I was 6 years old, and like on an exam, he was way different than an exam. And I actually told my mom, and my mom took us both out of his practice, but nothing happened to him. You know, he's still probably fucking doing that to other people. And then I had sexual abuse again when I was 20, where I was at a party, and a man, one of the people at the party, after I went to bed and my door was unlocked, he broke into my apartment and took my clothes off and basically did it. You can fill in the rest. And the scary thing about it was that I remember he left and he said, like, let's keep this between you and me. And I was terrified, and I didn't know if I should say anything, and I was confused because I had gone to bed and I was a little bit drunk, and I was like, what was going on? But I remember saying, like, closing the door and saying goodbye to my partner at the time, who actually didn't even believe me, Pat Murphy, and but did apologize later. But the man, I remember the next day I had this intuitive feeling that it was a spidey sense that I knew that would happen again. So I was working in the village down in Hess Village, and I remember walking home, and I got a bouncer to walk me home. And he walked me home, and then I was lying on my couch in the second floor apartment, and he showed up in the window of the second floor apartment of my house, had climbed a tree, and was trying to break in to do it again. So that was another experience, another awesome another really awesome experience, really great. And then there was a time, actually, I think this was actually before, when I was 19. I worked at a place called the James Joyce in Toronto. I had a fat Pakistani boss, probably around 55 years old. And I was roofied by him. I actually woke up in a hotel room. In a hotel room. And, you know, with his fat belly pressing against me. I remember being driven home that night and not having any idea what happened, and sitting in my dorm shower and just feeling like I needed to felt like I needed steel wool to just rub myself clean. And here's the problem, is that because I was a drinker, because I used to drink too much, I used to get myself into situations that were unsafe often. And I couldn't stop drinking because I had no idea how to deal with the pain, or even what the pain was, you know, what the original pain was. To be honest, I just thought I was a bad person because I couldn't control this addiction that I had. And because everything else in my life I could achieve, you know. I could go to school and I could win races, and I was top of my class, and I went to school on a scholarship, and I, you know, whatever. I mean, I ran marathons, you know, in my 20s, and it was insane. But the drinking was the one thing that I had no fucking clue how to beat. Just no clue. And it was just, I felt disgusted with myself. And because I drank, then, and this is the thing with sexual abuse, is that when you have sexual abuse, many times you can either become sexually averse or hypersexual, because you're introduced to sex at a very young age, way before you're supposed to be, way before it's safe. And half the time, the person that abuses you is someone you love, someone that's supposed to love you, someone that's, you know, someone that's supposed to keep you safe, someone you trust. So it fucks you up because, you know, not only it leaves all these confused ideas in your head, because one, you start to believe the world is unsafe. You start to believe the world is unsafe. You start to believe that people can't be trusted. You know, you start to believe that you're confused because, too, oh yeah, this is, sorry, I was just lost my train of thought there. We were talking about hypersexual. So yeah, so you start to confuse love and sex together. And also because sex is a pleasurable thing, even for a 3-year-old, even for a 7-year-old. So there's this weird confusion with pleasure and power, like power over you. There's this weird thing of enjoying it and feeling terrified. It used to be even, and we'll go into hypersexuality, but when I would masturbate, when I would have sex, I would enjoy it, and then I would start bawling my eyes out. And for a long time, I thought I felt a lot of love. I mean, this is the only thing that keeps me sane, right? Is being able to laugh at all this shit. Okay? That's what you have to, or you'll lose your mind. You'll just lose your mind. Oh my God. But I would bawl. And part of my therapy for myself used to be, whenever I would feel sad later on in life, would be to masturbate. Because it would bring up, it would start to move all this stuck, heavy, mucky energy, and it would bring it out of me. And I would orgasm, and I would bawl my eyes out. Because it was so intermingled. And this is the thing, back to hypersexuality, is people that are abused, you know, they touch their siblings at a younger age. They start to play doctor. They start to be more curious, you know. I see it all the time with my clients where, yeah, they were touched, and then they start touching siblings and this kind of thing. And there's a lot of shame in that. There's a lot of shame in being a person that does it to somebody else, because you've had it shown with you and as a kid, and you're just kind of being innocent. and you just don't know any better. And this is something that a lot of people with abuse need to get over, and to take responsibility for at the same time. And you know, I was very confused myself with love and sex. And I became almost, when I drank, because I had such deep wounding in myself, especially later on in like my 20s, I was starving for love. I was starving for love because, well, one, it was not just love, but it was these feelings, deep feelings of abandonment and betrayal and distrust and fucking being taken advantage of, being used. All those feelings were there. So it was like always trying to fill the void, stuff something in. And I was so addicted to joy because it was the only thing that I thought would help me heal myself. So that drinking was one of those things, but it was even being addicted to love, being addicted, thinking that if I find this partner that I'm eventually going to feel normal and complete. If I, you know, I was starving. And also because my dad wasn't a very emotionally available person. And so what I needed from men, which was deep respect, deep being seen, being valued, being celebrated, feeling safe, feeling really safe, gentleness, gentleness. Okay, that I didn't get that, and a lot of my clients with abuse don't get that, and a lot of my male clients with abuse don't get that. I have a ton of male clients with sexual abuse because they keep attracting the wrong people, because the universe wants them to heal, because the answer is not in a partner, it's in yourself. No one is going to heal those wounds for you. No one is going to heal those wounds for you. I'm not saying a partner can't help seeing you, but ultimately it's about you going in and even bringing it up to whatever partner you have. You know, going in and bringing it up to them. But you have to be vulnerable. You have to go in to be able to do that. You have to tell people what you need. So for me, I became hypersexual. I almost had a love addiction, which was, if I had any pain come up in my body, if I was triggered, I'd probably be in a bar so quickly, and I was like looking for love, because I couldn't sit in that energy for just any amount of time. It was so excruciatingly painful. Torture. It was torture, you know. So I would end up sleeping with all these fucking dudes that didn't give a fuck about me. They just treated you like somebody they just get off and roll over and just fuck, peace out. And there's a lot of people like that. Not everyone. After a decade of healing, hallelujah. After a long healing process, I can say that there's great men out there. There's great men. So if you have experienced abuse and you just think all men are like this, let me tell you, it's not true. But it can seem like that because the people you attract, if you've had abuse, often will all be the same way. I mean, yeah. I mean, the stories that I told you were a handful. Where I have like unbelievable mountains more. And so because you're going to keep bringing this into your life until you start to do what you needed to do as a kid. You have to say and do what you needed to do as a kid. You needed to putting yourself first, you know. Like my number one line, you know, and here's the thing, is people that are sexually abused, they always attract sex-addicted partners. They always attract sex-addicted partners. Because it's the perfect person. It's the perfect person. So you can work it all out. I remember in my first in all my boyfriends that I had, every partner was slightly sex addicted. I remember one of my first loves, you know, would have me almost on a schedule. It was like sex was a schedule, and I don't think he understood why he was doing this himself, but it was like, we wake up, we have sex, then at 12 we have sex, and then at 3 we go to the library, then we're gonna come back and have sex. I remember waking up in the morning and tiptoeing out of the bedroom so I didn't have to have sex with him. I was just like, oh, hallelujah. Oh my God, I don't want to have sex with him. And, you know, another partner of mine, he like a ferocious appetite for sex. Except I actually loved having sex with him, and it was great. Because I felt seen with him, which was awesome. And then I attracted another partner with sex addiction. And here's the thing with sex addicted men, is most sex addicted men have been sexually abused. Not all the time, but many, many of them. And if they can't remember, just wait, because the memory might arise. And so, and a lot of these men also were starving, you know, sex addicted men. And it's this weird thing I have now because I've done so much healing. You know, before I'd be like, fuck you. But I understand sex addiction because I had it. You know, I had it. I get it. And I haven't had abuse. And all the men in my life, of the men that I love in my life, whenever they've been around me, all their abuse comes up. It's just this magical thing that I have that I can pull out of people. But, and so a lot of them were like beaten by their dad. You know, my partner, his dad sexually abused his sister in front of him often. And his dad grabbed his dick. And now, this is how fucked this is. For the rest of his life, you know what happens to him? He gets men out of the blue grabbing his dick. He has men randomly grabbing his dick. The exact situation repeating itself again and again and again. So the thing with sex addicted men, and even attracting it, and these men, they often do not feel loved growing up. They had fathers that were strict and suck it up and didn't ask them how they felt, and they were the boss. There's a very authoritarian thing. These men are lonely, desperate, and starving for love too. The problem is they're using sex is just like alcohol, is a way to numb out. And I could feel that with my ex, and if you're watching it, you know, I love you. And he knows we talk about this, but he would use sex anytime he was sad, he was angry, he was this. And when I started, you know, but he's a lovely, let's be honest, he's a lovely, lovely, lovely person. We're not talking bad person, we're talking lovely, okay? So, but because I had done so much healing in my life, and I wasn't into having sex when I don't want to have sex, and you know, I was able to say no, is that I could, whenever he would have an emotion in his body, I could feel that emotion, because I'm so sensitive, and I did not want to engage when it was from that space, because I got so in tune, you know. And my body basically over time broke up with him, because I couldn't be with that energy anymore. It was, I would literally rebel. I would get anxiety, and I'd be like, I couldn't even be touched. My body would be just, the body never lies. Your body knows to all you victims out there, your body knows the way. Don't ignore your body. Your body knows. When your mind is steering you the wrong way, your body is your North Star. It's going to tell you what you like and what you don't like. It's going to tell you what you like and what you don't like. So, this is the thing. And, you know, for years I attracted, you know, men that would sexualize me. And I too would sexualize myself. You know, especially in my 20s, I would sexualize myself, because that's where I thought my worth was. That's where I thought my worth was. And then I started asking the question, you know, is this the kind of attention I want? You know, once I started to do the healing. And this is the thing with doing the healing, there is no way around it. Okay, like because until you decide to move toward it instead of away from it, it's going to keep repeating itself. And what happened with me is when I quit drinking, because it basically was going to steal everything I loved in my life, my family, and, you know, I was a manager at a printing house branch, and I had stayed out all night long. I'd probably done every drug letter of the alphabet you could imagine. I was high as a kite, whatever, cocaine, this, that. And I called into work. It was a month end. I called into work the next day, and I couldn't show up for my month end. And basically, you know, I did that 2 days in a row, because the next day I was so guilty that I did that I couldn't even answer the phone or the door or anything. And so I finally, you know, the police were called, and they showed up on my doorstep. And that's when my life changed, because my mom said to me, drinking or your family, choose. So I chose the right choice, and there was no way I was going to lose my family to drinking. There's no way. I was going to choose alcohol over my family. So that's when my journey started to begin. And, you know, it took a long time, like 4 years into my recovery, which right now I can say I'm feeling pretty good. There's moments of emotion, and that's I welcome my emotions around this. But you know, 4 years in, I started doing Reiki, and or 3 years in, and that's when I remembered my abuse that happened when I was 3. What happened is I actually had a man come into my house, and I'm in my PJs, by the way, here. I had a man come into my house that was the same energy as my abuser. He's very dominant, same kind of strong energy, a bit forceful, and it triggered me. Isn't it funny? There's energy going here right now on my eyeballs. I can feel it. So he triggered me. I went into a panic attack for like 4 hours. I started doing some Reiki on myself, which I had been learning. And then the man that abused me when I was 2 and 3, his eyes just went flashed right in front of my eyes. Because my mom always thought it was this little kid. And it was just like, and I was like, and it was like everything finally started making sense. And the memories started to come back. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, what's the deal? What happened with this man? And she's like, oh. She's like, he used to make you sit on his knee and just did it, or like we're friends. Like wouldn't have done anything. She's like, you guys always hated it. He used to make you sit on his knee and you didn't like it. And I was like, And that is when my journey started to unfold. And I started to, what I thought was healed, I started to dive into. And I'm just, for all those people that are going through healing, take the time for yourself. You know, if this is you, it's not going to go away. There's no amount of ignoring it back into wellness. You can't ignore yourself into wholeness. You can't abandon yourself. You can't abandon yourself and feel content, okay? You need to give yourself the kind of love you always deserved, and actually start to just like hold space for yourself and, you know, sweetheart, tune into that energy and talk to yourself and say something like this: sweetheart, I am so sorry. That was awful. That was awful. Be as sad as you need to be. You don't need to be happy. You don't need to get over this. You don't need to get over this. This wasn't your fault. This wasn't your fault. No. My brothers and sisters, I love you. The beautiful thing about healing these traumas is that they don't stay forever. It might be a lot in the beginning. You know, me with healing, I still have to do some healing here and there. But it gets easier. It gets easier. And all the good men start to come and women start to come into your life. When we start to respect ourselves, when we start to honor ourselves, the universe matches that. You can have good intimacy again, and you can feel empowered, and you can get into relationships where you don't need to sacrifice yourself for other people. It's all possible. It's all possible. And you can be fearless, and you can stand up. And I see it time and time again in my life, even with, you know, all the men in my life, because I've healed, because I've healed, because I've done some deep, deep healing work. Almost every man in my life is now going to counseling. Yeah, every single man. My son's dad, I'm not going to name names, my best friend, all the men are having the courage to look at themselves and go in. And I think that's amazing. So I love you all. That's the longest video. We'll see if you guys want to watch this or not. I had to do this. So anyone that's wanting to work through sexual abuse and physical abuse, emotional abuse, and they want a life, book a breakthrough call with me. My 90-day program is this is what it's about. It's about breaking down to break through. And you'll get your life back. And most of all, your self-worth. I love you guys. Peace, love.